Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking all about Datacron farming, specifically free-to-play Datacron farming. This is on my main account. I'm very much an endgame player, 13.5 million, and I do heavily interact with Datacrons, and I am in Kyber 1, but I don't spend money on them. Now, you can get a lot of Datacrons without spending money. You need to build up a stash though, so each time you're dismantling them you're getting a lot of data cache, but I'm going to go over the tips that I advise if you want to build up a big Datacron stash. And the big drawback, if you don't want to spend money, you're not going to be able to do tons of re-rolls like spending players do. So that's what you're going to get. And you can get focus Datacrons where you don't need to reroll, but they're very costly. So we're going to be going over the cost of leveling up Datacrons each step of the way, the cost of focus Datacrons each step of the way, the best way to farm them, and my general advice for how to manage these inventories. So let's start with the cost. And first, we're going to be talking about the cost of a standard non-focused Datacron to level up from 0 all the way to 3, 0 to 6, and 0 all the way up to level 9. This is a graphic I made once upon a time, very long time ago. I think 2022, when I was just starting YouTube, as referenced by the Lord Vader Cron that I used as the example. But the costs have not changed one bit since then, so this still holds up. The Mark 1, the Mark 2, and the Mark 3 materials all have a unique place in the Datacron inventory. Those have completely switched up with focus Datacrons, and I'll talk about that in a second. But let me just note, to get a Datacron from 0 to 9, you're going to require more Mark 2 than anything else. You're going to require 305. You're going to require 190 of the Mark 3, but you only really need much of those after level 6. So 7, 8, 9, you're going to need a lot of the Mark 3. And then Mark 1, you don't need any of it after level 3. So when Datacrons first started, you actually needed this all the way up through, and it was just such a struggle, such a pain point. People just couldn't get enough of it. But now you barely need anything for these normal Datacrons. But the economy is really switched up with focused Datacrons, so I will get to that. But before, and for most players, I do think it's the best idea to try to go for primarily standard Datacrons, because focused Datacrons are extremely expensive. You got to focus on getting Mark II any way you can, and if you're not doing any focused Datacrons, these other two will pile up a lot. Mark III, Mark I, you're going to have a lot more than the Mark II. That's always going to be the struggle. Then data cache is the other part of the equation. This is where you really benefit from building up an inventory from season to season, because yes, while they're temporary, when they dust, you're going to get a lot of that data cache back. So if you get a Datacron all the way up to level 9, it costs 7.75 million data cache. You actually get 4 million back, so you get over half back. You don't get much of the materials back. That's where we're going to focus on farming and Conquest, but you do get a lot of your data cache back, and that helps a ton, especially since they've increased the cap twice in the past year or so, from 30 million to 60 million, and now 60 million to 100 million. So you really get the benefit of having a big buildup. Data cache, not a huge deal to get from level 0 to 3. 0 to 6, it starts getting costly at 2.75 million. But one strategy I'm going to talk about is try to level up a few from 0 to 3, or a bunch at one time. See which ones are good, see which ones already have trash stats and don't have a good level 3. Just don't have anything good about them. You might want to get rid of them right away before you sink more resources into it, because it's not very expensive to get it to that point. And if you're just banking on re-rolling everything, why start with having to re-roll a bunch of level 0 to 3 stuff? So yeah, that is just one piece of strategy. And then after that point, another checkpoint is 4 to 5. And then not level up to 6 if you think all the stats are trash or unbalanced. It's not a great value. And then I recommend only taking Datacrons to 9 if you know you're going to reroll the bad stats you want, and you just need a lot of level 9s, or if you're just going for very few, you only take the creep of the crop up there. So that's my first piece of advice. Now let's look at focused Datacron costs and talk about how that plays into the overall Datacron economy. And here we are in a modified version of that graphic that I just recently made. This is the cost of leveling up a focused Datacron from level 0 all the way to 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. All different checkpoints that you get different abilities on. So the level 1 and 2, the 4 and 5, the 7 and 8, those are getting your stats. All these multiples of 3, that's where you're getting a new ability. And the standout increases are really the Mark III currency or Mark III material. If you max out a Datacron, you need a whopping 980. That is over 5 full level 9 Datacrons. You need 28.375 million data cache. So that is almost as many as 4 level 9s. And then you need 590 Mark II, which is not even double. And then you need 340 Mark 1s, which is over triple. So this is where the economy really takes a shift. So because where the Mark II was a huge pain point with standard Datacrons, it still is. It is not the biggest pain point now with focused Datacrons. And if you're farming any number of Datacrons, even just one up to level 15, 1 or 2, I did 2 on my main account. That wipes you out of so much data cache. You need to work so long just to get these Mark IIIs. And in that time, you're actually going to build up quite a stockpile of Mark II. So that's important. If you are engaging in focused Datacrons, I would really only recommend maxing out level 15s on focused Datacrons. If you're like late game or late mid game, whatever that means. End game definitely is going for a couple. I'm only doing 2 on my main account this season, and I did last season, but it's just such a big investment to go up there. Now, on the other hand, my GoTanks account, the Hoda Datacron this season has a Jedi Knight Luke level 9, and I have Jedi Knight Luke. And so I just got that one up to level 9, and that's not too much more than a standard Datacron at level 9. It's not even a million data cache over. It's a little bit more Mark III, a little bit more Mark II, a lot more Mark 1. But it's not that huge of a stretch. But once you start seeing really good abilities at level 12, level 15, really ask yourself, is it worth it? Because it also costs 10,000 episode currency to buy that. So, but yeah, what used to be plentiful for a player like me anyway, the Mark 1 and the Mark 3, is not so much anymore. And we'll be looking at my Datacron inventory. We're right in the middle of Conquest, so it's the perfect time for me to do this video so I can show you the strategy of how I go about things. But yeah, focused Datacrons, really think long and hard before you really want to pour into one of these. Just they are so expensive. And our final little graphic before we get into the game, this is my ranking of the rewards from each sector. This is also an old graphic that still holds up because they have not changed the reward structure one bit in years. So I've ranked them number 1 all the way to last place. So I think the best node, and this has been the same for years, is farming sector 4. You're going to get somewhere between 5 and 15 Mark III and 5 and 15 Mark II. So that's what you need the most of, the bulk, whether you're doing normal Datacron farming or just focused Datacron farming. In exception, if you don't do any focused Datacrons and you're just doing normal Datacrons, if you have so many Mark III that you don't know what to do with them, it actually starts to become pretty attractive to farm Sector 3 because you have the potential of more Mark II mats. That's why I put that as the second most valuable. And especially with focused Datacrons, even if you're farming that, this becomes even more valuable because these Mark 1s become no longer just a nuisance piece that you don't need barely any of, and now you need lots of them. Third best node, you are going to definitely need to hit this, but the number of times you're going to need to hit it is limited because you can only hold 30 Datacrons per set, and for most players, you're not even going to use that many. So you need to farm this node to maybe get Datacrons. I would not farm this node as a source of data cache income. You're going to get most of the drops. You're going to get a small amount of data cache, and that's it. But the real value's in the Datacrons. So you either do it this way or you spend close to 4,000 shard sharp currency for a unleveled Datacron, and that's not a super good deal. So that's the third best. Fourth, I have as Sector 5 just because you're going to get Mark III mats and some reroll stuff. But honestly, right now you buy reroll stuff and data cache with shard sharp currency if you can, and that's the best way to get them. And the absolute worst node, I recommend not doing this at all once you have feats, is Sector 2. You're getting an even smaller amount of data cache in Sector 1. I don't know why. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense how it's so low even now. Please increase it. Please, just do it. Like, it's been painfully small. It's just a nothing reward. This is just barely scratches the surface. Anyway, rant over. And you know, the Mark 1, it does have increased value with focused Datacrons, but still, this is the worst. Don't hit it after you've done all the feats for that in Conquest. So right now in my Datacron farming cycle, I have just been locked into GAC for the first week of the season, 3v3, and that's always where a new set comes in. It always comes in right before the 3v3 season, and that's where you need more of them to fit all your teams, as opposed to 5v5, which I wish it was flipped. I wish we started at 5v5, have some time to build up your inventory, and then you're ready for 3v3. But no, you get up a huge glut of Datacrons for 3v3, and then you're overloaded for Sector 5. Or for 5v5. So I have 6 days left to farm Datacrons, and right now I barely have any of this new set. I have 2 at level 9, I got a couple level 8s, few level 6s, and that's because I got 2 focused Datacrons. Now, the next time Conquest comes around, I will be able to put way more investment into my normal Datacrons because I'm not going beyond these 2. But yeah, I sunk all the investment into that. So I have 27 million left, and I got close to 100 million after dismantling. If you go to see what you're going to get from dismantling a Datacron right now, fair warning, this is a lie. This is not true. There's no, you can get, actually right now if you do it, you're going to get it. But when it's transitioning next set, it's going to be a completely different formula. It's way more data cache. It's way fewer of all the materials. It's 4 million data cache. I forget the amounts of these, but it's a small amount. It doesn't really add up significantly at all. So you're not getting many mats. You're just getting a lot of data cache. You're going to get a lot of reroll mats. So for instance, I can't reroll right now because it's not a level 9. But I have 793 of this level 2 reroll mat and 576. And that's because Datacrons from the old set, I think it's Mark 3, just materials dust into Mark II rerolls, and then Mark II materials dust into Mark I rerolls, or Type 1 rerolls. You're not going to get any level 9 rerolls really for free at all. I mean, it's really hard to get these things. You can get them in Territory War for winning. You're going to get a good bet. You can buy them for 600 crystals in the Datacron Store. Very bad value. They're just very hard to get. And that's one thing. That's another thing I really wish they would change. They had this disingenuous Q&A about Datacrons towards the beginning, and they made up this question. They said, "I'm confused. Where do I get? People tell me I'm confused. They don't know where to get reroll mats and materials, and so we moved them out of Conquest." Okay, thank you. Now I can't reroll level 9 subs. So be really choosy how you're re-rolling. I guess is a good time to get into the whole reroll economy before I hop on over to Conquest and talk about the farming strategy there. So the strategy, what I was alluding to with the cost, typically I will level up. So I have a few at the lower tiers. I haven't been getting too many Datacrons, but I'll level up a bunch. So this is an example here. I leveled up these 2 to level 2. I didn't like the stats, crit chance and potency. I was meh. Level up these at just crit chance. Meh, I don't like crit chance. So I didn't invest in those further. And that's, that's not too much of an investment to put into it. To go from 0 to 1, it's 50k. I'll just do it now because it's fine. So it's 50k data cache. I'm not really going to use this one. 150 to go to 2. That's not too much investment to just to walk away from. So I got a 10% health. I'd probably keep this one. If I was actually trying to farm up. Now the annoying thing is you can't tell which one is the one you just did. But yeah, if I dismantle that, I'm getting back, a little bit of data cache. It's not a complete loss. So the overall loss is 150k data cache. That's much better than leveling it all the way to 8 or 9, hating the stats and never using it, but you sunk everything into it. So you want to level a bunch up, see the good stats, and then take the ones you like up further and keep going, so on and so forth. Like this one I have for Gungans. I got pretty bad level 1 and 2 rerolls, but I got a good level 3, so I liked it, so I kept going with it. Got protection rolls. I think that's good. Liked it still. Got level 6 Gungans. I wanted it. It's a good ability, so I kept it. Kept going. Protection. Hellsteel, don't like it. Not really. I don't like the Bombardier ability, but you can only reroll stats, any stat, once you get to level 9. So that's something I do frequently. That's why I don't want to use reroll mats on a level 1 or level 2, because any reroll you make, so if I were to reroll this ability, it costs 20 now, and the second one will cost 20, but after I do those rerolls, it increases the cost for every level. So every level right now is going to cost 20 of whatever applicable mat. Mark 2 for level 4 through 6, Mark 3 for 7 through 9. So once you get to level 9, if you want to make sure you use those precious Mark 3 rerolls for the important stuff first. If there's a level 9 you really want, you want to ensure you get the cheap rerolls. They're very hard to get. You don't want to reroll anything until you get to the top. So once you do that, on this one, I'll reroll the character first. I don't want Bombardier. I want a different Gungan. I want probably Captain Tarple, so reroll it. If I get him first try, perfect. If I don't, I'm going to do it again. If I get him first try, I might even re-roll the Hellsteel because I want a different stat. But typically, I re-roll the level 7 or 8 stats as a free player much later on in the process when I already have all the level 9s I want. And then after that point, it's just, carte blanche on re-rolling stats on the lower levels. Because it's much easier to come by Mark 1 and Mark 2 re-roll mats than it is 3. So even if it costs 80, which is the max, it maxes out at 80 per re-roll. After you've done 4 rerolls, it'll cost that. So I'm fine with doing that for level 4 or 5 or 6. So Qui-Gon, another example. I leveled this up because on the level 1, I got defense. Perfect. That's the best stat I could hope for. Offense, it's a low number, but it's okay. Kept rolling. I got more defense and crit damage. And I haven't rerolled these. So I was like, okay, great. I'll keep moving with this. Got a level 6. Jedi Vanguard. I think I rerolled this once. Or no, I actually did reroll some of these. I take it back. But this demonstrates a problem. So since I rerolled a bunch of whatever, I forget. I don't even remember. I think I rerolled the level 3. I was trying to get the max health and protection boost. So since I did that, it is not a good idea for me to reroll this crit chance. I don't like this crit chance there. I want to get rid of it, but I dug myself in a hole and it's going to cost me 80, so I'm not going to do that. So that is the big strategy because the rerolls are the thing you're going to have to be the most careful about because it's the hardest thing to get back. And now we're finally going to look at the Conquest board and talk about the strategy of how you're managing the inventory season to season. So we just entered round 1 of 3, so the very first set of the season. We're in setup phase, so a few hours ago we had a lock. So any Datacrons I farm from now, I won't have week 1. And during that first week of Conquest, or that first week or so, like 9 days, I am not trying to finish the Conquest board. So Sector 5 on my main account. I have not done anything in Sector 5 yet. I plan to now. I plan to soon because I don't need to rush the Datacrons. But, and this mainly applies to endgame players, like super early mid-game or you just got into Conquest, you don't need to rush this much. You probably don't have too many teams that will benefit from Datacrons. But I rushed to the end of Sector 4. I got here on like day 2. Like I do the 50 refreshes and the 100s. So I haven't hit my daily reset yet. I'm at a 200 because I spent the 50s and the 100s. But you rush to the end of this sector and then you hit this node as hard as often as you can. And while you're climbing through Conquest the first time, you don't worry too much about the feats. I have these feats already done, but I farmed, I think half of them, I farmed them on the Datacron nodes. So I know if it's Sector 4 or 3, I'll have plenty of time to get the feats here. Because the feats do count here. So you farm your sector feats there. You also want to farm your event feats, so your global feats. So light side online force users, I'm going to do that on Sector 4. Crit damage down. I'm going to try to do that on Sector 4. And Bad Batch on Sector 4, because it's the best one. I am not going to be trying to go farm a bunch of feats on Sector 2. And for the first run through, I have not gone back and hit this after climbing up through. I got 3 out of 4. So I will probably have to come back and do this one. 3 Darkside Clone Troopers. Mine are gear 11, so I couldn't do it 10 times in the run through. But these rewards are not fantastic. So I'm not really going for them. There is a bonus little thing that has changed since I made my graphic. You have these secondary nodes on all the sectors before 4. What I'd say, I don't recommend them. They're very low amounts, 1 to 6, 1 to 4. However, for Sector 2 especially, I might hit this node while I'm farming that last Clone Trooper feat because I might not want any more Mark 1 or Data Cache. I do right now. I'm kind of hurting for it because this focus Datacrons wipe me out. But right now, I'm not too worried about it. So Sector 3, There's one more I need to do. Pretty easy one. That's going to be, I'm going to be hitting that each time. And another thing to keep in mind. So you can't run Darth Vader 15 times in a row. Even if you switch up the whole team, he's going to run out of stamina after 10 battles. So what I recommend is each day, if it's a large amount you have to do, you go and you do 5 at a time, hit the Datacron node, and then come back the next day after his stamina has rebuilt, and then keep going on, so on and so forth. My inventory right now, I have a lot of the Mark II, and I'm pretty sure I don't have a lot of the Mark III because of those Focus Datacrons. Yes, too. So this is a complete flip from how it was before. Focus Datacrons. I had tons of this, or not tons. I had a good amount. I had more than these that I needed, because whatever I needed to invest in the Mark III, I needed more than the Mark II, so I'd never catch up. I'm getting them in roughly equal amounts, and I'm not really getting anything in return. So if I send that now, I get pretty close in the amount. But yeah, Sector 4. That's the key. Like, it's a pretty simple equation. Go to Sector 4 and go to Sector 3. Sector 5, it's one where, I say try to get all the feats as quick as you can while climbing through the first time. But the most important thing, just in Conquest in general, is not dropping battles. Like in this sector, I did not go back and do any of these battles again. And I've only lost one banner. I forget, or like one keycard. I forget what happened here, but I only lost one, so I don't have to go back through. You don't want to be farming your Conquest feats on these random nodes where you get no rewards. You want to hit the Datacron where you're going to keep getting rewards over and over. And now we've hopped on over to the Datacron Store and shipments. So just all the way at the bottom, go to Datacrons. I clicked Charge Shop to get to it just because it's the quickest slide down. The main purchase you're going to make is Data Cache. That is something... If you are trying to be a competitive player in Kyber 1, 2, or 3, probably, you want to try and hit this store every rotation. I'm pretty bad about it on my main account. I need to log in more often to get the data cache because I'm getting low. But this is where your data cache comes from. As you gain experience and build up a store, you're going to have a lot more when each set rolls over. But within the season, once you've used that big start off, you're going to need to farm the data cache here. Another thing, and the only other thing I really recommend getting from the Datacron store with Charge Up currency is your reroll mats for Mark II and Mark III, or Mark II, Mark I. Right now, I'm good. That's a lot. I'm going to see how far that gets me, and if I start getting low, then I'll start farming them again. Right now, I don't need them. The Mark I, 50 for 600 is not terrible if you're in a pinch. It's not like horrible like this is 1950 for 25. That's not really getting you anywhere. But I would just say hold off. Try to farm Sector 3 a bunch for that, because it's really going to help you out with your standard Datacrons too. The Datacron itself, this is, if you're really in a hurry, 4,000 for one Datacron is not great value. So you want to be farming all those feats. Usually I just farm the feats on Sector 1. I don't really have to farm it that much again, and I'll usually get up to 15 in a Conquest run, unless I was super efficient the first run through and I didn't have any feats left for the Datacron node. But I try to get 15 to 20 the first run through, and then in the second run through, you're not in as much of a hurry because it's for 5v5 is coming up, and you already have a lot of Datacrons at that point. Typically, if you're an endgame player. These purchases with ally points, generally I discourage them. They just are worse value than if you converted, you bought a bunch of bronziums and opened the ally points. The one thing, even as a free player, that I would consider buying ever, and I don't consider it much, is the Mark III rerolls, and that's only in a time of desperation. It's 600 crystals for one refresh, for one reroll, if you haven't rerolled anything on the Datacron, and you're not even guaranteed to get what you need. So it's a very high stakes purchase that I don't really recommend. Everything else, you kind of just leave it. But data cache, hit it every time you can. The 10k ally points for 100k data cache, probably not good. But yeah, just charge up currency for the data cache. It's good purchase. Now, I know for most players, mid game, under, even through late game, you don't have a large stockpile of charge up currency. I understand that. But I think your ability to purchase the data cache with the charge up currency goes up as you start to need more teams with Datacrons. The exception being all these Lightspeed players, which I guess is everybody at this point. If you are buying a bunch of Lightspeed bundles, you have all these relic characters. Well, at that point, you know, if you have a relic character already, you're not, the charge up currency isn't as useful for getting higher relics. So when you have a lot of relics and that's your main thing, the charge up currency I think should be used on the data cache as opposed to tons of charge up currency purchases. And even then, I only recommend like the purple pieces here, which I will get on my main account, and like that one where it's 360 for 4. But yeah, the Datacron Store, very important for data cache primarily. And the last piece of advice I'll give, and this is for very few people, because very few people are going to hit that 100 million data cache cap at this point, which is very large accounts that use a lot of Datacrons. I typically, once I run out of my data cache stash at the end of the second conquest of a set, I will still keep farming those materials. So see, on this the oldest set we have right now, that's going to expire at some point. I don't see where it's expiring. Until 8/6/2025, so a couple months from now. I do have a lot of these materials and I could level this up. So I farm a good bit of these in the event that dismantling a set would get me above that data cache cap. So if I were to dismantle this whole set and still have and get above 100 million data cache, I'm not going to have enough time in the new Conquest to get to the end of Sector 3 or Sector 4 and get enough materials to use that data cache. So to avoid waste, that would be the equivalent of me building up the Mark II, Mark III mats of this set, and then dismantling from this set, using some of that data cache and leveling up some of the old set as a new one comes in, if that makes sense. It's hard to keep track, I'm sure. But yeah, that's not going to come into play quite as much with just how big the data cache cap is now. And now the final piece of advice, I guess I'd say, is if you're farming the Focus Datacrons, which is hot right now for a lot of players, you don't have to only do them first. I would recommend getting them as soon as you can to get the most value out of them. Like I did obviously go for these two at the very beginning of the first season of this set. But while you're doing that, just level the other stuff up to level 5. Because I still have, right now my bottleneck is having Datacrons. I don't have enough Mark III to get to the next level 6 until I farm more, but I have plenty of Mark II, so you don't have to do nothing with your normal Datacrons while you're farming Focus. Just get them to, you know, level 3, level 5, and try to build up a baseline. You will have to farm some Datacrons themselves on Sector 1 to do that, but just farm your baseline. You're not going to just exclusively only do this. So for the 3v3 season, I'm going to be relying primarily on this old set. Don't have a ton of the new stuff. For week 2, I might be okay. And I think that's it for my Datacron farming tips for free-to-play. And in 2025, it's been years since I last did a Datacron farming video. And I think the appetite is better for it now. I think there's less hostility overall to Datacrons. I think they're a very fun way to switch up the game. And, you know, it keeps it decently fresh. Although I do wish they'd stop spamming this level 3 ability every single set. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you have your own advice for Datacron farming, share it in the comments. I'd love to hear it and integrate it myself. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.